Turn me up. Wah. Turn that up a little bit loud, please. Let's have a toast. One time, can you put a deuce up for the triple black niggas that put forth so much foresight on this forthcoming fifth album? Nigga, this style is fantastic. That's why the young lasses ask for us for such fashion.
All right. Thanks for tuning in tonight. This is You Heard It Here First. You rock with me, Charlie. During this first segment of the show, we will have Randy in the co-pilot seat with me. Ladies and gentlemen, please give my man Randy a round of applause. What's up, Randy? You there?
I'm here, man. What's going on with you?
Oh, man, you already know. Yeah, everything's going on, man. How you feeling about those Wizards right now?
I'm not watching the game right now. My house is in a little disarray because I'm in the process of moving right now, so I'm not watching the game. But I heard that they're playing out of their minds right now.
You know what?
That's what Freddie said, actually.
Yo, check it out. The Wizards straight kicking ass right now. I don't know what got into I guess in their psyche prior to this game, but they're balling out there. Last I checked, it was a 20-point lead. It was like 40 or 60 something to 40 going into the half, if I'm not mistaken. So the Wizards been taking care of business, and I mean it's good. I mean they win this game. I mean, a betting man would say the Wizards should be up 3-0 if they win this game, or 2-1. But they're doing what they need to do, protecting home court like Boston did, although the Wizards should have won that game 2 nights ago on Tuesday. But I mean, they're playing good. So, I mean, if you were feeling down about your Washington basketball team, then everything's on up and up because they're going to take this game unless they decide to, I guess, have a meltdown like the Portland Trailblazers would do in the fourth quarter and just piss the game away. So as of right now, everything's going good and the Wizards looking as good as you can look, opening up the second round of the playoffs at home. So,
well, I mean, that's a good sign, right? Because it's not like they were playing bad prior to tonight, right? I mean,
no, not at all.
Right. So this goes to show that when they really put their minds to it, for lack of a better expression, they can take care of business. So this is going to be an interesting series for sure because Isaiah Thomas been playing out of his mind for the season.
Yes.
So
yes. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you can all remember, like I said earlier in the introduction, and I'm going to say it again, Randy was on the last installment of #Drinking for Charlie, where he reviewed Great Notions, Return to Innocence. Great beer. I liked it. I'm going to say I didn't think it would be extremely better than some of their other beers, but I actually liked it. And I think you said one thing where it's one of those beers where you could take it to a barbecue or take a little afternoon summer party and you could possibly drink that all day at 7% and still feel good about yourself. So it was an easy drinking beer, and I appreciate them for making that. But like I said, this week Randy will be with me to talk some baseball, and we also talk some craft beer. So I guess, I mean, as a Nationals fan, what are your thoughts on your Nats?
It goes without being said that we're having a good season. I mean, we're like 16-9 right now. We got a 6-game lead. Oh no, we might be better than 16. 16-9 sounds about right, I think. Somewhere around there. We have a 6-game lead on the Marlins, who are in second place. Now I want to look up our record real quick, but nonetheless, we're just playing really good baseball right now. And I know everybody wants to talk about the game that Rendon had on Sunday. I mean, and with good reason. The dude was, he couldn't miss. I mean, it was like the ball was the size of a beach ball out there. He went 6 for 6, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs. Like that's a dumb game. Like nobody does that. And prior to that, interestingly enough, he had been slumping because he had like a calf injury or something like that. And that's also been the case with him in prior seasons. He's always been battling some type of injury. But I mean, if he can stay healthy, I mean, we hear that a lot, but particularly for Rendon, man, if he can stay healthy, he's gonna do some crazy things. I remember 2 years ago, one of my good friends played college baseball at a school down in South Carolina called Anderson College, and I went to his wedding, and before the wedding we were talking baseball, and I was like, yo, you gotta keep your eye out on this kid from the Nationals, Anthony Rendon. This kid is gonna be something special. Watch. But he couldn't stay healthy, and then this year he's healthy, and we see what he's doing. And right now, even with that breakout game, he's only batting 271. And I say only, right, because on our team we got Ryan Zimmerman batting 424. You got Bryce Harper batting 376. Daniel Murphy batting 333. Trey Turner batting 316. Matt Wieters batting 303. Adam Eaton, before he got hurt and we lost him for the season, he was batting 297. So obviously, like, our success hasn't just been, the results of Anthony Rendon, having a really good game or a good season. Everybody's destroying the cover off the baseball. And you can't overlook what the rest of the team has been doing offensively when you talk about the success of the Nationals this year.
So after 1 month, you're feeling good about yourself and you're feeling good about your team.
Absolutely. I mean, for the most part, we have been, for the last 2 seasons, we've been favored to win the National League East. We made it to the playoffs both seasons. Unfortunately, we hadn't made it to the World Series, but it's a good organization. They know baseball. Mike Rizzo, who's the GM, he's a beast. He knows what he's doing. He keeps the farm stacked. He makes good moves. We all thought the Adam Eaton trade was insane in the offseason. Like, why would you do that? And this dude comes in and he's immediately paying dividends. So, the organization is good. They're always in contention. And, I'm definitely feeling good about where we are right now, especially, with the hot start, with the people who are supposed to be pitching well and the people who are supposed to be hitting the baseball well are pitching well and hitting the baseball well.
Cool. So are you, obviously, as a fan of sports, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, whatever, we always want our team to be holding that trophy at the end of the season. So are you hoping for a chance to play in the World Series, or you just want a deeper playoff run this year just to, build it up to give the fans something to really cheer for when a championship is won? Are you hoping for at least a deeper run in the playoffs, or you want the Nationals to be there playing in late October?
Now we have to be playing in late October. In order to get to the World Series, you got to be playing in late October. We need to get to the World Series.
Okay.
We've been close. Just making the playoffs is hard enough, to be honest with you.
Especially in baseball.
Right? Making the playoffs is hard enough. We won a ton of games the last 2 seasons, but it all means nothing if you don't bring home the trophy. And we've been so close. We got so much talent. The organization is so good. It almost feels like now at this point going forward, if you don't make it to the World Series, you can make it to the World Series and lose. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
but it's almost acceptable, right? We're at the point now where you got to make it to the World Series. Kind of like the Cincinnati Bengals, right? They make the playoffs every year, but they never go anywhere.
Never go anywhere. First round exit at that.
Right. That becomes an old hat, right? So we're making the playoffs now. We just got to get to the playoffs and sustain ourselves and go further.
Cool. Well, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a diehard Nationals fan. However, I do follow them. I've been a casual fan since Bryce Harper was brought up to the Nationals from the minor leagues to the big leagues. I think that's been he's in his 5th year now.
Yeah, 5th year, I think, yeah.
I extremely became a fan when the Nationals signed my man Max Scherzer. Tigers didn't want to pay that money for some odd reason. When they had the money, they should have just went ahead and paid the guy.
But Verlander.
But I'm saying we've seen the Tigers at least have pitching and no bats, do nothing, have bats and no pitching, do nothing, have the best of both worlds with pitching and bats and still do nothing. So I understand they have to find something else to do. And what they did was, let a guy who is as good as Max Scherzer, let him walk, and he found a home in Washington. So I wish nothing but the best for the Nationals. And here in a couple weeks, I'll be getting me a new cap because that one I have from last year sweated out, man. So it's time for a new cap.
No doubt.
Cool. But now we're going to switch over, transition to baseball power rankings. So I don't know what other teams you follow, Randy. I don't know if I just watch my Nationals and that's it, or if there's other teams that you follow because of players or been to the ballpark or whatever the case may be. But we're 1 month into the baseball season. And are there any other teams that you follow? Are there any teams out there that you're either surprised about their performance or shocked about their performance?
So before I moved up here from South Carolina, I was a Braves fan because I lived in the South. And for the longest time, that was the only baseball team down there. So I was a Braves fan. When I moved up here, I kind of, I did a taboo thing because I was a fan of two teams in the same division, right? And then I kind of slowly just made the transition to being a full-time Nats fan. But I'm a casual Baltimore Orioles fan due to proximity, and also it helps that they're not in the same league as my Nats. And a lot of people here before the Nats were here, everybody here were Orioles fans, right? So I'm a casual Baltimore Orioles fan. But as far as being surprised by any teams, not really. I pay a lot of attention to the teams in my division, but I'm surprised by the Royals this year. They suck. Real bad.
Yes, really bad suck. I mean, we can just make this whole, because I wanted to talk about that as well. But you can go ahead and tell me how bad they suck, and then I can tell you reasons why they suck. Because they're a team that, they're in the AL Central, so they're a team that I'm not a diehard fan, but I root for every team in the AL Central because my Tigers are going to play most of their games against those opponents there. So I root for all those teams in AL Central. So I'll let you proceed with those Royals.
So yeah, AL Central, for the most part, it's not an easy division, right? I mean, you got the Indians who played in the World Series last year. They're tied for first place in the AL Central with the White Sox. The Twins are always tough. They're only a half game behind the Indians and the White Sox. The Tigers, even though you just got through saying how, Tigers have kind of fallen on bad luck. They didn't have Miguel Cabrera for a part of the season, but they got him back now. I think he has a clean bill of health. They're only 1 game back of the Indians and the White Sox. And then you got the lowly Royals, who are 6 games back of the Indians and the White Sox. So it's a 5-team division. 4 of them are very much like in the race. Either of the 4 could be in first place, and the Royals are just stanking it up all the way with all kinds of funk. But do you want to talk about the power rankings as it relates to the Royals?
Well, no, if you would like to. I guess for me, power rankings, I only had focused on, there were 2 teams that I wanted to focus on that I was just kind of surprised, and that would be those Colorado Rockies and the Houston Astros. So 2 teams that, Astros been in the playoffs, not last season, but the season before last. And I think so 2 years in a row, the season before last, if I'm not mistaken. And the Rockies haven't been in the playoffs since 2009. And since I lived in San Diego for 10 years, I was able to watch a lot of their games because they're in that NL West division with the Padres, the Dodgers, the Rockies. Who else is there? San Francisco Giants, and I think Arizona Diamondbacks, I think. Yeah. So they're in that division. So I watched a lot of their games. So I was just kind of shocked that they're leading the division, number one. Shocked that the Giants are at the bottom of that division when most of the time they're leading the division, but also shocked at the fact that the Rockies, who are always sharing that bottom position with the San Diego Padres, somehow, some way, they're at the top of the division. And I'm just wondering if they can keep it going for long haul. And I guess my surprise is last season, Greg Holland, he missed the entire season due to Tommy John surgery. And he's came back, converted all of his 11 save opportunities and sports, I think 1.50 ERA. So he's playing some good baseball there. the Rockies are ranked 6th in home runs and 6th in slugging percentage. So I guess everything is looking good for the Colorado Rockies at this point right now after a month of baseball. I mean, this is the time I think the best teams start playing quality baseball, because we know once we get 2 months in and slightly before the All-Star break, some teams start to just take a dip in performance because they're getting prepared for after the All-Star break and then the long haul to get them into the postseason. At least that's how I feel about baseball.
Well, Charlie, I want to say that you know, we talk about teams doing well right now, and there are a lot of teams who are doing very well right now, but let's not forget that the baseball season is incredibly long. It's a grind. It's a really long season. So, you know, especially given the history of the NL West, man, and you know the Dodgers and with the massive payroll they have, and the Giants being perennial, you know, pack leaders, and the reemergence of the Colorado Rockies. I feel like the NL, regardless of how it looks right now, the NL West is going to end up. It's not gonna look at the end the way it looks now. I just think it's gonna be anybody's game. It's gonna be a toss up. But real quick, I want to go back to the Royals. Let me run down these power rankings numbers for you real quick. All right,
go for it.
30th in Major League Baseball power rankings, having only scored 69 runs. The 29th place team, the A's, have scored 92 runs. That's a 23-run gap between the 29th place team and the 30th the 30th place team in power rankings. They've been shut out 3 times. They've only scored one run 6 times, 4 times. That's half of their games to date with 2 runs or less. They rank dead last in batting average, on base percentage, and slugging. Last in doubles, last in total bases, last in walks. And the bullpen, which used to be full of magical unicorns, now sit at the bottom 5 of the league in ERA. So if there's any reason why the Royals are doing bad right now, there's no one. They just stink all around. They just think our pitching sucks, the offense sucks, everything.
It's like you name it, they stink at it. It doesn't matter
Right.
what it is, you name it, they stink at it.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, I mean, I guess since I do follow the Royals, I think a couple things I noticed with them is the fact, I guess I would say money may be the issue. I mean, because they gave a lot of money to a few players, like, you know, outfielder Alex Gordon. But I mean, players they should have paid, they didn't play. And to me, it seemed like those guys aren't playing hard for them. And then I look at a situation where maybe if it is money, some people are like, well, no, it's not money. But like I just mentioned, maybe it is not the money factor because they paid players that they shouldn't have paid as much money, and they didn't take care of other players out there. And I guess I would say a player like, you know, Eric Hosmer, I think he should have gotten paid a little money, and they haven't gave him the money that the kid deserves. So he's one of those guys that I feel is probably not going out there performing at the highest level that he performed at when they were on that run and making the playoffs and going deep into the playoffs to win that World Series. So the last thing I would say is Ned Yost. I mean, he's too cozy with his players, warm and fuzzy. He doesn't have, I guess, to me, reading up on the Royals, he doesn't have that attitude to like go out there and just win. I mean, he's like too laid back. Doesn't seem like he want to hurt their confidence. So he's like the dad on the team, the nice dad on the team, not the tough dad on the team. So I think that's kind of, at least now, it didn't look like that when they were winning, but I think now it's getting to the fact last year they didn't make the playoffs. And it's getting to that point where some changes need to be made. And I think they need to make some changes.
It almost seems like he's trying to be like a poor man's Joe Madden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Joe Madden has like that really aloof, you know, keep it loose, laid back style of coaching, and that transfers over to his team, and they play loose and they have fun and they're doing very well. But everybody can't be Joe Madden, so there's that.
Yeah, for sure, for
But,
sure. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Charlie. One last thing. I wonder if the Ace Ventura, the pitcher that died.
Yeah.
I wonder how that's an impact in the team. I mean, because that guy was a big personality in the team. And you know that those type of things can have an effect in the clubhouse. You know what I mean? It's not really impacting the Marlins right now when they lost Fernandez, but you know they're in second place in the NL East. But I wonder how the loss of Ventura is impacting the Royals clubhouse right now. It's definitely impacting their rotation.
It is definitely an effect to their rotation, but that's a good question, man. You know, I guess that's something that I hadn't thought of, and you know, the guys who do this for a living, that's something that hasn't been put out there, but it could possibly be the reason why they're not performing at the level that we all would expect them to perform at, and I'm sure Royals fans would expect them to perform at. And like I said, it's kind of sad because I thought they would still be one of those teams at the end of the season, fighting for one of those spots to win that trophy there. Because I know it's not going to be the Tigers, and I know it's not going to be the White Sox, and for damn sure ain't going to be the Minnesota Twins, although they're leading the AL Central right now. So I figured the Indians and the Royals would be one of those teams at the end that would represent the AL Central or represent the entire AL for that matter.
It's a long season.
Very long season, very long. But I think like I mentioned to you a couple weeks ago, like I'll watch the first month and a half, and then I take my break with baseball because that's when the playoffs start to get extremely good. Once we get to the second round and then the conference finals in it, and then the finals, and then All-Star break will come, and then I'll be right up in baseball's butt at the end of August, you know, right around that time frame. So, you know, I get it in early, and then I catch it way at the tail end. So, you know, I'm excited about things. And you brought up a good point that all this stuff is what it is now, but you better be for sure in September. A lot of things that looked great in April, mid-April, early May, maybe the end of May won't be the same come September and October timeframe. So that's that. But I can say I am shocked at the San Francisco Giants. I mean, we're talking about a team that both the Giants and the Royals within the last 5 seasons, they won the World Series. And in 2014, they faced each other in the World Series and the Giants won. And then 2015, the Royals followed it up with a World Series win. So I think currently right now, when I looked at the standing, both of those teams combined are 20 and 35. And like I said, granted, it's early, but I honestly want to know what's really going on with the Giants. You already hinted what's going on with the Royals. So hopefully here in a couple weeks, I pay attention to the Giants just a little more, since, I mean, outside of the Mariners, the San Francisco Giants would be the next closest team as far as coverage goes and watching it on TV. So I'm going to pay attention to them, and, you know, hopefully I'll have something to speak on them in a couple months or so. But moving on from there, man, you ready to talk some beer?
Let's do it, my man.
All right. Cultural appropriation in the craft beer community. Now, by definition, ladies and gentlemen, cultural appropriation is sociologically or sociological. God, I've like fucked that one up. It's like when that mouth is not all the way dry, but it's somewhat dry, and you try to get those S's and those ologicals in there. Sometimes it just don't work. But a sociological concept in which views the adoption, or I guess you can say use of elements of one culture by members of a different culture, as largely, I would say, to negative, put that information out there. I guess you can say that is. It's most likely to be harmful when a source of a community is a minority group that has been oppressed and exploited in any other ways, when the object of appropriation is to particularly sensitive. So, I mean, lately in the beer community, if all that made sense to you, if not, go read the definition. I mean, I'm not an English major or anything like that, but go read the definition. But lately in the craft beer community, we have been noticing this a lot. And when I say we, I mean Black beer consumers. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't been viewed by anyone else who isn't Black, but it's something Black beer consumers have noticed, as well as other minority groups, because it's not only something that affects Black beer consumers. It affects other minority groups as well. But I can't speak for other minority groups. I can only speak for the Black beer consumers, and not all Black beer consumers, just a few that I know who have voiced their opinion about it. So true enough, we all know cultural appropriation is wrong. However, when it comes to craft beer and or advertisement for craft beer, when do we step back and think, are we as the minority group being appreciated, or are we being exploited? And if we can't answer that question, how do we go about understanding the motive, if there is a motive? And are we jumping to conclusions too fast, or is it warranted? So this is something like I guess I have mixed feelings about it, but I enjoy listening to others express themselves and voice their opinion on it. And one individual who I learned a lot from just by looking at comment threads on this situation of cultural appropriation, or just speaking to an individual about it, is Randy, because he made me realize a few things that I kind of was just like, man, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about that. Like, I'm here to drink the beer. I could care less, or couldn't care less, what's on the can, the crowler, the glass, whatever the case may be. But there are times where I do look at those past situations, or I am reading something and I hear people voice their opinion and how they feel about it. So one person I wanted to bring on to the show and eventually talk about this is Randy. And ladies and gentlemen, Randy has some great knowledge that he's about to spill out to you guys. So take it in. This is one of those thought-provoking conversations, and that's something I like to get into and speak about. But I'm gonna let Randy take the floor here and let you guys know how he feel about it. Positive thoughts, negative thoughts, but you're listening to someone who has strong feelings about this type of thing in the craft beer community. And it's not only in the craft beer community, but I mean, this is something that he and I are a part of, and we're seeing this often. And like I said, at some time, enough is enough. So that's how I'm feeling out. 6 months ago, a year ago, it wasn't a big thing. 6 months later, a year later, now it's just like, now I understand why these guys feel the way they feel now, the same way they felt a year ago. So Randy, the floor is yours, brother.
You know, I think the perspective that I take might be different from, say, people who grew up in a different part of the country than where I grew up, right? I said earlier, I grew up from South Carolina, grew up in South Carolina, born and raised South Carolina. And you got a lot of people who grew up in more diverse pockets within the country, so they may not be an eye that's as sharp to those types of things as my eye may be. But there's a fine line between paying homage and cultural appropriation. I have no problem with if somebody is well, I still have a little bit of problem with somebody who's truly a fan and they're paying homage to like let's say a rap group or a particular artist or something like that. But oftentimes, we know, okay, but oftentimes it doesn't seem genuine because we know that the craft beer scene is void of African Americans. It seems as if, the Brewers Association put a lot of emphasis on diversity a couple years back, but it seems as if that diversity was limited to females. Once they got more female engagement in craft beer, it almost felt as if they thought the diversity challenge had been met. But I know for a fact that now the Brewers Association is actually beginning to pay a little more attention to African American involvement in craft beer, and I think that the group that we're in, Charlie, is a prime indicator that we are a market that deserves to be marketed to. I mean, we know 600 plus guys right now who probably tons of other people who aren't in our group who are legitimate craft heads. So as it relates to appropriation, the problem for me is a lot of these breweries are using black culture, mostly for the most part hip hop and even and now R&B. They're using that as hip hop lyrics for the names of their beer. They're using certain time specific events, like the types of fonts and things that were used during like the R&B heyday. They're using that on their beer, but at the same time, none of these breweries are doing anything to reach out to the hoods. None of these breweries are, a few of them are reaching out to artists who were involved. Interborough, I think it was Interborough. They did a beer with Run the Jewels with Killer Mike, and that was actually kind of like a collaboration event because Run the Jewels are craft heads, and so they kind of had a say so on that. But I've seen so many beer cans use lyrics as the beer names. So many breweries use Biggie and Tupac, either their likeness or their lyrics or whatever as a part of the beer itself, and they all want to use that culture to push their product, but none of them are trying to encourage or attract anybody from that culture to actually step onto the craft beer scene. So by and large, that's the biggest problem that I have, because at that point it seems like it's you're not paying homage, it's exploitation. You're using that particular culture to push that product, and I don't once again, I don't have a problem if you're using lyrics and things like that to push the product, but also try to encourage people within that community that you're using to get involved in what it is that you're doing. We know Black people drink beer because there's a reason why Hurricane, Steel Reserve 211, King Cobra, Schlitz Malt Liquor, Bull. There's a reason why those are in every single corner store in the hood. Oh, they know we drink beer because they make beer that's marketed specifically to us. But don't just market to us, include us. You know what I'm saying? And so it walks that fine line of exploitation / mockery and homage.
So I mean, of the many breweries out there, who do you think, or which brewer or brewery you think just have maybe just crossed the line to the point where it's just like, all right, come on, enough is enough?
I definitely think Noble Ale Works crossed the line once. They had a beer called something like 24 karat juice or something like that. And it wasn't so much the label. I know it was a Juicy J reference, so it wasn't so much the label, but it was their marketing leading up to the release of the beer, where they had like these, they had people from the brewery. And obviously, once again, I said earlier how the industry is by and large white. Sees like white people with like gold fronts on and like gold chains, posing for pictures and stuff like that. It just seemed like it was like they were exploiting, or not even they were like making a mockery out of that subsegment, that subgenre, or it was to say that subsegment of hip hop, right? Where the type of hip hop that Juicy J does, right? And I mean, it was just like they received backlash from it, and obviously they must have known that it was wrong, because instead of standing up for themselves, they immediately pulled it from all their social media accounts. The pictures were deleted off Instagram, the pictures were deleted off Facebook, the tweets were gone. So I mean, maybe they felt good about it at first, but kind of had in the back of their head that they thought that this could backfire, and it actually did backfire. And they had that trigger finger fast. They had that trigger finger ready fast to take these things down. But I definitely think they went too far. When we're talking about cultural appropriation. Then there's another brewery in North Carolina. I can't remember the name of it. They're in Charlotte, small brewery I had honestly never heard of, and they had like this Beyonce theme night at the brewery, and the stuff that went out, the promo was just like, are you serious? Like this made it past review. And so it
I'm gonna have to look into that one because I don't know anything about that there.
I'll try to find it and tag you in it.
Cool. Appreciate it. Well, I had one more question that I wanted to ask you about. I guess, well, what would you like to see? So, I mean, what would you like to see from a brewery that's out there using marketing, advertisement from a different culture? What would you like to see them do?
I would like to see them in August. I'd like to see them doing backpack drives for kids in the hood. Giving them backpacks with school supplies in them. I'd like to see them maybe doing coat drives in the winter. I'd like to see them hosting fun days in the summer at their brewery instead of having like an anniversary. In addition to having, if their anniversary is in the summer, in addition to having an anniversary party, why can't you also have like a fun day for kids in the hood to come and play on bounce houses, brew some root beer for them, or brew like some type of if you can make a Berliner, you can make a carbonated juice. If you can make a Rattler, you can make a carbonated juice or low sugar juice or something that these kids that they can drink while you're there while they're at the brewery. It's a number of things that they can do to give back. They can do some type of scholarship foundation. It doesn't have to, you don't have to give somebody a $30,000 scholarship. You can do a $500 scholarship. That's books. Those are books for somebody in college. You know what I'm saying? There are a number of things that they can do. And, we just, there are some that do, but most don't. And I just think that that's lame. That's whack. That they use it to sell the product, but they don't try to do anything to help the kids. And I found that when I was talking about just now in Charlotte, the details for the event it says it's not May Day, it's Bay Day. Or B Day. I'm sorry, BEY, B Day. We celebrated our dance deity and booty muse Beyonce with one epic class. Get in formation with your freakum dress, 6-inch heels, and invite Becky with the good hair. We're crazy in love with Bay. And like, I'm sure Beyonce had nothing to do with this event.
I will hope not.
I'm sure this brewery is not involved in the hood. Another brewery in Charlotte. This one is called Sugar Creek. This brewery is Sugar Creek. And then unknown brewery in Charlotte, they made a beer called Rye Felicia, which is a play on Bye Felicia from Friday.
Yeah. I've heard of that before. I have heard of that one.
It's just whack all around.
Cool. So I guess I know I don't want to segue into it now because it's something I want to speak to you about next week. But if I were a guessing man, knowing you, if someone said, list the two things that Randy is disgusted by in the craft beer industry, one of those things would be big beer choking little guy beer, forcing them to sell out because the money's so great, and cultural appropriation.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen,
I got lots to say on that, Charlie. So next week.
As I said, I don't want to seg all the way into it, but I want to pick your brain a little bit more about the recent sale of go ahead. You can go ahead and get everyone ready for next week. So
recent sale of Wicked Weed sold themselves to what I forgot the name of Anheuser-Busch's Craft Arm, whatever it is. It should be called Decepticons. So that happened, and then also Lagunitas sold their other
50% there
to Heineken, and then I think Tony McGee took a job on the board at Heineken. So those are just two of the biggest blows that happened just this week, like within 1 day of each other, that everybody's talking about. And I mean, I got opinions. And we can talk about it next week for sure.
Cool. Well, I think before I let you go and before we go on a station break, ladies and gentlemen, the craft beer Fugees will be linking up here hopefully by the end of the month. Great Notion is releasing a wheat ale, a collaboration that I think they were going to do at Modern Times, or a collaboration that they did with Modern Times, but they end up going with the Fantasy Island as the release between them. And so they're going to be releasing like a hoppy wheat ale. So I'm going to probably pick up 2 of those crowlers and go ahead and get the craft beer Fugees together and get that 101 side-by-side review, the taste of one palate versus the taste of another palate. So look out for that. Randy, look out for that box. Hopefully I can get it to you. I'm going to get the crowlers early, but shipping it, I probably won't ship it out until maybe the end of the month. But it's a wheat ale, so it shouldn't be that bad.
Can I say what's
a couple weeks ago? What's that? It's either going to be Great Notion, or I want to do Great Notion because it's new, but I know you said you wanted to try something from Breakside. So I can get the Breakside stuff and ship that out. But the Great Notion, I wanted to package some more stuff with it for like some future things. So I figure, you know what I'm saying, if I wait until the end of the month, you know how you gotta, with the wifey watching your bake statement and stuff like that, you gotta try to, you gotta like, maybe with crowler this price and shipping this price or this. So I was like, it was either gonna be Great Notion or it's gonna be something from Breakside, because I know you wanted to try something from Breakside. But hopefully the end of the month we can get that collaboration going. But you said you want to say something?
Craft Beer Fugees, you're the leader that makes you Wyclef. Amanda's the only female that makes her Lauryn Hill. So does that make me pause? Damn.
Hey, yo, we're the craft beer Fugees, but we do not have to replicate who the craft beer Fugees are and who the individuals artists. We don't have to be them. We can be ourselves. Just
all right, cool. Thank you.
Or we can be City High.
Thank you.
Yeah, but no, like I said, you let me know what would you prefer first? Would it be the Breakside joint or the Great? I mean, Great Notion. I talked to Paul, and their releases that they have coming up for the summer is going to be bananas. So I mean, this wheat ale is just a pinch off the tip of the iceberg. They got some more stuff they're gonna bang out, but Breakside. I mean, I can't get you something from Breakside bottles.
Whatever's clever, my man.
Cool.
I'm gonna love it all.
Cool. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is my homeboy Randy. Randy, what's your social media again?
You can find me on Instagram at rgrizzle2, RGRIZZLE2, at rgardner Jr., and that's about all I care to give out.
Cool. All right, man. Like I said, thank you. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. I'm going to go ahead and take a good 10-second station break, regroup, and when we come back, I was on point with my schedule tonight, because I'm getting warmed up now, so the jitters are off, because I've been off about 2 weeks. The jitters are off. The words are going to start flowing awesomely great. But my 2 guests I had lined up for the second part of the show, they canceled on me. So Jared and Ray, you guys are some assholes, and I'm gonna make sure that I cut this piece of the video out and put it on your Facebook wall and all this stuff to let you guys know you guys are assholes. But you guys had good reasons. My man Ray daughter has a little performance or recital or something like that, and Jared had a personal information. So I'm gonna bang out the rest of the show by myself, unless my man Randy want to stick in and talk some basketball. If not, about to take a quick break, and then I'll come back.
Simple
like I said, this is You Heard It Here First.
150, none. Blue moon. Hey, look, keep this shit 100 with squad. Playing at 50 with old. And I got nothing.
And we are back live. It's kind of cool to say we're back live, although this is a live recording right now, but it's not live. Sometimes I miss actually recording live, because it's cool to go ahead and just post that stream somewhere and have people watch and or comment when the stream is going on. But I've gotten to the point of I like going in and editing things down and adding music to it and throwing overlays on things. So it's a live show for me, but it is a recording that you will hopefully watch if I'm not lazy. Probably going to edit this show down here on Friday, tomorrow. And it's kind of cool that Ray and Jarrett aren't a part of the show, because then I would have to go in and make overlays for them. So now I don't have to worry about doing that. Take some of the work down. But like I said, this is You Heard It Here first. Heading into the second segment of the show, which I'm going to be talking some basketball. And it looked like my homie Randy is deciding to stick around with me, and I appreciate that. So before we get started, I guess I have a question for you, and also a question for Randy. But when you see this question, or when you hear this question, go ahead in the comment box, whether that be either on Facebook if you see this and you're still watching, YouTube. Respond to that question. I'll post it on Twitter as well. You can, at me and post your answer to the question. The question is, which NBA team that was recently bounced out of the playoffs is having the best fishing trip, and why? So teams that got bounced out within the last week or so would be the Memphis Grizzlies, those Los Angeles Clippers. We got the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Portland Trail Blazers, about 15 minutes away from here, Indiana Pacers, Chicago Bulls, Milwaukee Bucks, and the Atlanta Hawks. Of those teams, who do you think and why is having the best fishing trip? Randy, who do you think?
Portland Trail Blazers.
See, now you sound like an asshole, because the crazy thing, I was going to be talking about this with Jared, and I was going to say the Los Angeles Clippers, just because I know he's a Clippers fan. And since I'm a Lakers fan, you know what I'm saying, we got that banter and those arguments between each other. So I was going to say the Clippers, but he's not here. So now I'm praying and hoping that the Celtics take care of business against those freaking Wizards.
My answer is based on a lot of logic, right? and nothing else. It can't be the Clippers, because they're Hollywood. They ain't trying to go fishing. They don't know nothing about fishing, right? It can't be. It could be Memphis Grizzlies, but Memphis, they're right on the Mississippi River. But if when I think fishing trip, I'm not thinking fishing on a river, right?
You can't be deep sea fishing then.
Yeah.
Ocean.
It can't be the Raptors. The Raptors are out, right?
They're well, you know what? You're correct. They are out, because they're down 0-2 against Cleveland. Okay. The series head back to Canada here on tomorrow night or Saturday night, if I'm not mistaken. And how they're looking and how they're performing, they'll be home in 5 games. They'll be home in 5 games.
It's the answer's Portland, because Portland is known for its outdoorsy culture. They do everything outside. You're not that far from the ocean. Not
at all.
So it's perfectly feasible that they could easily put a fishing trip together real quick, charter a boat, head out into the deep waters of the Pacific, and have like a good old Minnesota Vikings type fishing boat time.
Oh man. Well, check this out. I guess for me, I know the Rockets versus Spurs, I thought that was going to be an interesting series, but the fact Tony Parker is down, I guess Patty Mills could possibly step up and take on the roles. I mean, he's a younger player than Tony Parker, but Tony Parker is still the heart and soul of that team. And then the warrior of that team is Kawhi Leonard. And then, you still have LaMarcus Aldridge, and then you also have Paul Gasol. But I guess the series that's more important to me is the series between the Washington Wizards and the Boston Celtics. So I have a question. And the reason why, it's kind of good that I'm speaking with you, because if Jared was on, we will probably relive the text conversation that he and Ray and I had together on Tuesday night when, in my opinion, the Wizards pissed away a lead and lost a game that they should have won. So being someone that lives in the area, and I'm sure the Wizards is a team to watch, that's a team of your choice to watch, and probably a team you root for just based on proximity and where you live. Who do you feel who would you point the finger to as to why the Wizards lost that game against the Boston Celtics the other night ago?
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
I didn't watch the game.
I thought, see, I kind of thought you were watching the game because who's that? Was that me, Freddie, and who else kept commenting on that? Kale. Okay, so maybe we should have him on here and ask him who he thinks.
Yeah. I was tired up that night, man. I couldn't watch it, but it seems as if the Wizards don't play well on the road. They aren't able to keep their composure. They like tonight they're playing lights out because they're at home, but on the road they're a different ball team. And I mean, Isaiah Thomas has been giving cats fits all season. I mean, getting teeth knocked out and everything, is still balling out, and he's playing with a whole bunch of emotion. So it's hard to. I mean, let me ask you: did the Wizards give it away, or did the Celtics take it?
I'm gonna be straight up honest with you, and I'm gonna say the same thing I told Jared Tuesday night. The same thing I was gonna tell Jared as tonight. The Wizards gave it away, but not necessarily the Wizards gave it away. To me, I think John Wall gave it away. And the only reason why I say that is, as far as the point guard position goes, John Wall is top 5 in the league. When we go to as far as the best players in the league, I would consider John Wall being in the top 10, maybe bottom of the top 10. Or you can just say top 15 players in the league. You will have a guy like John Wall there. I don't consider an Isaiah Thomas in the top 10. I also don't think he's top 15. He's right on the outside of the top 15, but I think he's a top 20 player. And my whole thing behind it was the fact that in both games, game 1 and game 2, the Wizards were leading after half. Now, whether they were leading by 5 points, they were leading by 6 points. The game 1, they were leading big, and they lost that game. Here, game 2, I think they were leading by 4 or 5 points, but you still have the lead. And John Wall was balling out. I think he scored like 19 points in the first quarter. He had an awesome second quarter, and then he had a pretty great third quarter, although they were losing that league. And then in the fourth quarter, he totally went ghost. So for me, looking at the game, and the game is over, you look at the box score, or when you're watching the game, you're seeing how players are scoring, whether it's bench players, starting 5, and you're looking like, okay, it's a pretty equal game. And to me, I thought it was a pretty equal game. And that's the only reason why I think Isaiah Thomas basketball play in game 2 totally outweighed, and he totally outperformed John Wall's game in game 2. According to my man Jared, who's not here, who's probably going to watch this when it's posted, Jared thinks 2 players fouled out had something to do with it, which you're right. Having 2 players foul out, especially when at the time they fouled out, they needed to be on a court, but that has nothing to do with it. Bradley Beal not going out there and being Bradley Beal, that's a big thing, but it also has nothing to do with it, because I look at Bradley Beal as the second best player on the Wizards team, and then I look at a guy, Al Horford, and in some regards, before Al Horford became a Celtic, you had my man Avery Bradley, who was considered the second best player on that team. And both of those guys, Al Horford and Bradley Beal, they scored 15 and 14 points. And then Avery Bradley had, I think, 14 or 15 points as well. So you have the second best players on each team. They still scored in the same area amongst each other. So it's not like the second best player on the Celtics scored more than the second best player on the Wizards. It was pretty equal there. If you go up and down the bench scoring was pretty equal on the Celtics as well as the Wizards. So you look at the bench scoring, if I'm not mistaken, Boston's supporting cast, just their entire supporting cast, including the bench, scored 76 points. The supporting cast of those Washington Wizards, 79 points. So we're talking a 3-point differential between them. Is that large? No. But I mean, if you're a numbers guy like myself, that's a difference right there, because that means your supporting cast and your bench outscored their supporting cast and their bench. And the only person I can look at and point the finger and blame is the best player on the team, who's supposed to be the leader on the team, as to why they were up after half They were up after the third quarter. They were up going into the fourth quarter, and your best player on the team who scored 40 and had 13 dimes totally disappeared. He disappeared at a time where between the fourth quarter and the end of overtime, Isaiah Thomas scored 28 points, and we did not see John Wall at all. Didn't see him at all. He dropped 40 and 13. However, in the fourth quarter, the man was on the back of a milk carton. He was outscored 53-40 to Isaiah Thomas. He was non-existent in the fourth quarter. He entered the game at the 9-minute mark in the fourth quarter when they had a 5-point lead. This is when your best players come in and you continue to play hard and close the game out. The guy turned the ball over twice. He went 1 for 2 at the free throw line. He shot 2 for 4 from the field. In overtime, he fouled a player. He turned the ball over. He went 0 for 3 in overtime. This is when your big-time players step up, and he didn't step up. And John Wall isn't a scrub. By no means am I saying John Wall is a scrub. What I'm saying is your best players show up, especially in the playoffs. This isn't the regular season. You can't make this game up. And if I was a smart man, I was a betting man, I would be sitting up here thinking, I'm glad I chose the Wiz to win this series in 5 games, because they should be up right now 3-0, at least 2-1. But they are about to, is going to be 2-1 in favor of Boston. So for me, if I had to place blame, which I don't necessarily want to place blame because it's a team game, the guy who I'm pointing the finger to and the guy who I'm stepping up to and I'm talking to, if I'm the coach, if I'm the owner, I'm looking at it like, yo, you have to be better. You're the heart and soul of this team. You're the leader. You're the best player on this team. There's no way a guy like Isaiah Thomas, and I'm not saying Isaiah Thomas is a scrub, but if you're John Wall, there's no way a 5'0" dude should go out there and drop 53 points on you and your team, win the game after they were down. So that was my whole big thing, and that was my gripe about this game when speaking to Jared through text message and my homeboy Ray was, he's the best player on the team. He's an all-star. He's not a scrub. He's an awesome player. He's about to get paid here pretty soon. You can't have him being the best player on the team, an all-star, totally disappear in the fourth quarter in a game that you were winning, a game that you gave away. That's how I feel about it. That's my takeaway from that game. The Wiz gave the game away, but John Wall was the main reason why they lost that game.
But you can't discount the fact that there's a reason why the Celtics are the number one seed.
They're number 1 seed because the Cavs decided, you know what? The Eastern Conference is ours. We can take our time. We don't have to take anything serious because at the end of the day, we still have this guy by the name of LeBron James on our team. And if you have LeBron James on your team in the East, especially in the East, and I'm not saying that because I think the West is kind of weak as well because the Warriors are running through everybody. But if you're in the East and you have LeBron James on your team, you have nothing to worry about. They are out there lackadaisical, willy-nilly, just beating the Raptors like they're a gang of nobodies.
I know, but Charlie, okay, so Celtics number 1 seed. You can't underestimate home court advantage in the playoffs. And you can't underestimate Isaiah Thomas is small, but that dude got the heart of a lion. And he's playing with mad emotions now because he's dedicating everything to his sister. It matters. So I know you want to blame John Wall for the L and everything because he ain't show up the way you think that he should have showed up. He should have shown up, but I mean, you gotta give the Celtics some credit.
No, the thing is, I'm not discrediting the Celtics at all.
Okay,
I am not. I'm gonna be honest with you. I picked the Celtics to win this series in 6 games. All right, but the thing with me is, when you're watching a game or you're watching how well the Wizards played in game 1 and still lost the game. They came with more fire in game 2 and they still lost the game. And I'm sitting there thinking at some point, like your star player, like he has to like step up and be like, yo, no, Scott Brooks, we're not going to send a guy that's 6'10", 6'11" out there and put him on an island and have my man Isaiah Thomas go ahead and cross him up and get to the paint and score a floater or get an easy bucket, easy layup and get fouled. We're not going to do that. We're going to put me on him. I'm 6'4", I'm 6'5", I'm going to lock him up. There were plays where Isaiah Thomas is out there making my man, the Morris twin, look like he shouldn't be on the court. He's crossing him up. He's making him look silly. And you got John Wall on the side just watching. And I'm sitting there like, you're the best player on the team. You're the best player on the team. You go guard the best player on the team. When LeBron James on the court and it's fourth quarter is crunch time, if Steph Curry has the ball, KD has the ball, those guys considered the two best players on the Warriors team, LeBron James going to be on them. I don't care what Ty Lue say. LeBron just, I'm the best player on this team. The best player has the ball. That's who I want to guard because I want to be the guy that everyone say, you know, if it wasn't for XYZ, they wouldn't have won. He went out there, he sacrificed everything. And like I said, I'm not a huge John Wall fan, but I recognize the guy has talent. He's extremely great. He's a gifted basketball player, but he kind of let me down and just made me feel there's a reason why I'm not a fan of his, because I was expecting him, especially in that game, after losing game one, whatever the case may be. But that game where you were winning, he performed at a high level, 40 points, 13 dimes. Like, he performed so well to where the Wizards should have won that game. There's no way Isaiah Thomas should have been able to drop 28 points from the fourth quarter to the end of overtime for the Wizards to lose that game. So I guess that's what I'm bummed about, is the fact that you go out and you see a great player go perform at a high level, keep his team in the game, and then he totally disappears in the fourth quarter. It's just like, I didn't even know he had took the road trip. I mean, because in the fourth quarter, he was totally just invisible. You couldn't see him outside of turning the ball over, fouling, missing free throws, the game-winning shot. I mean, come on, John Wall. I watched the entire game. A lot of your buckets were on drives to the basket for layups, creating a contact to shoot free throws. Why would you shoot a jump shot 15 feet away that's a fadeaway to win the game? It's just like, come on, man. You're too good of a player.
Take it to the
You're
rack.
the leader. Yeah, you're the leader on that team. So right there, that's what bummed me out. If he would have took it to the rack and missed the layup, oh well, because it probably would have been a foul. But the fact that he stepped back, did what he did, shot a fadeaway jump shot, that just made me think about everything that I didn't want to think about, because that game went to overtime. And he already didn't have an excellent fourth quarter, and he extremely didn't have a great fourth quarter. And I'm sure overtime, and I'm sure he was just frustrated because Gortat fouled out. And I don't necessarily think that was a foul, but he fouled out. And then, you know, Morris lost his cool and he was out of the game. So I understand where my man Jared is coming from, but it's just like, still, when you're the leader of that team, you can go cold, but you cannot go cold in the fourth quarter, and you for damn sure cannot go cold in overtime if this is a game that you and your team were supposed to win. So at the end of the day, I mean, he's balling out there tonight, and the Wiz balled out tonight. They did what they had to do. Like you mentioned, they're just a better home team than a road team. But I was upset with the fact that he did everything he could possibly do for his team to win, but then he also did everything you wouldn't want your star player to do late in the game, and especially in overtime. So that's my biggest gripe and why I'm kind of upset with his performance.
I can't disagree with you. I mean, all of your points are valid, man. I mean, your star player cannot, because think about it. If that was LeBron, he would have been drug in the media. Completely. I mean, they would have drug him from Portland, Maine to San Diego. you know what I mean? So, you know, and the same thing applies to John. The standard has to be the same for the star player on every team, especially if you've been balling. If you've been balling, you can't disappear in the fourth quarter when you are needed the most. I will not disagree with you at all. I can't. I'm buying. So, yeah, I'm on your side. John Wall, you know, he let his team down.
Yeah, but like I said, you know, I was watching some of the game tonight before we kicked off the show, and they were playing hard. I'm assuming that They won the game. I mean, they better have won that goddamn game.
Yeah, I think
They better have won that game. So, like I said, the Wizards, I mean, they're extremely good team. I mean, they have living up here in the Pacific Northwest and being able to go watch CJ McCollum and Dame Lillard play live. That's a great backcourt. And then you have that awesome backcourt in Golden State with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. And then you have this awesome backcourt in Washington with John Wall and Bradley Beal. So, I mean, they're not scrubs. Beal and Wall, not scrubs. I mean, you do want a better game from Bradley Beal. You don't want Bradley Beal to score, 14 points and shoot 6 for 16 from the field with 3 turnovers. Like, you don't want that. And he had some costly turnovers in that game where he's just like, come on, man, you're better than that. So, I mean, like I said, it was just one of those things. I picked the Celtics because I just picked the Celtics. That was it. I hadn't watched many Washington basketball games throughout the season, unless they were on primetime. But for some odd reason, I got a lot of Celtics games out here and all that good stuff. So they were always on TV, and they're often on NBA TV. So that's why I was able to watch those games. So for me, it was just one of those things, just like, if you're winning the game, you have to find a way to close the game out. And I just don't think they did that. But one thing I can tell you that they did in the first quarter of game 1, the first quarter of game 2, and here in game 3 in the first quarter, they come out extremely strong. And it looked like they were able to close these guys out. So, I mean, if they could do the same thing and even this series up here before going back to Boston, I think it'll be a great thing. And I think this will be one of those series that may stretch out to 7 games. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I picked the Celtics in 6. So
if they manage to even this series out and go back to Boston 2-2, oh my goodness, I think you might see it'll be every game will be an absolute dogfight because at that point in a 2-2 series, the next game is a must win.
Oh yeah,
the next game is a must win, and if you lose that game, it's a must win. If you win game 5, the next game is a must win because you want to close out so you can get that extra day or that extra rest.
Yes.
So if they even this series out 2-2, it's gonna be bananas. Game 5 and 6 are gonna be crazy.
Cool. Now, I don't know if you're a big fan of Chris Paul, but Chris Paul has been in Los Angeles since, I want to say, 2011, and the Clippers have been great as far as Los Angeles basketball, because my Los Angeles Lakers have stunk up the place since 2011. And that was during that time where the Clippers started to claw and get to the top and, be that team in Los Angeles that everyone wants to see. But after being eliminated by the Utah Jazz, which I didn't think would happen, Chris Paul's future is up in the air in Los Angeles. His future is up in the air. I don't know if Doc Rivers is going to stick around and remain the head coach and GM, or there's been words surfacing out there that he may take the GM job in Orlando. So I don't know how things are going to roll with Chris Paul. But if you were Chris Paul's agent, would you be trying to get him to New York to possibly play with Carmelo Anthony? Because although there's so much drama with Phil Jackson and Carmelo Anthony, the guy wants to be in New York for some odd reason. I don't know why, but he wants to be in New York. Or if you were his agent, would you want him to make his way down to San Antonio? Because Chris Paul is relatively young. I think Chris Paul is a couple years older than me, so he's about to turn 32 years old. And Tony Parker just, this injury, busted knee, whatever the case may be, I honestly think he is done. But you would have a core in Chris Paul, LaMarcus Aldridge, Kawhi Leonard, a nice core. And then you still have Paul Gasol, who's still around, older guy, but someone that can give you some quality minutes. So you have a big 3 there, although Chris Paul is about 5'11", 6 foot. Or would you prefer him to head to New Orleans and team up with DeMarcus Cousins and the Brow, Anthony Davis? If you were his agent, would it be San Antonio? Would it be New York? Or would it be New Orleans?
That's a hard question. Because if it's about the money, you got to go to New York. because New York can pay that money, and you're more marketable in New York, and because it's the marketing capital of the damn near the world. You can get all kinds of endorsement deals there, right? So if it's about the money, you're not gonna win the championship going to New York. I'm sorry, not with the Knicks. Not gonna happen. To win a championship, you might need to go play for San Antonio. If you want to build something into a championship, then you go to New Orleans. But whatsoever he do, I think he should leave LA because
he says about the expiration time has come.
Yeah, because it's too much up in the air about what's going to happen with Doc, like you just said. Blake Griffin is, for lack of a better expression, Blake Griffin is kind of garbage now.
Garbage. You know what? He is garbage. If he's not injured, he's not playing. And stats show that the Clippers are better off without him. They actually win more times than not when he's not on the floor with them.
My man has a lifetime supply of Ninja Smoke because he keep dropping them joints and he be gone. he's stay gone, man. And he can't stay healthy, and he's just not. I mean, at one point, he was kind of sort of a little bit dominant. Blake Griffin was, and then he gone. Maybe it's because he's sharing the spotlight with DeAndre Jordan or something, and I don't know. Maybe he needs to be the two big guy. I mean, he's not even a big guy. He's a power forward, right? He's not a center.
Yeah, he's a power forward. He's not a center at all. I mean he's barely a power forward. He's like a small forward that doesn't have a handle like a Carmelo Anthony, but he's a power forward because he plays like a power forward, although he's somewhat undersized.
So Blake Griffin, I'm wondering now, one of two things: either he's done, or he needs to be someplace where he is the man. Because with all the help that he has in LA right now, and he's still garbage. I mean, hey, something.
Something's gotta shake.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So I mean, maybe obviously give him with help doesn't work. Maybe him by himself in a strange, odd, can't justify, dumb, stupid kind of way might work for him. I don't know. He ain't gonna win no championships by himself.
No, not at all.
But maybe he'll be a better ball player by himself. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I think Chris Paul definitely needs to kick rocks. Personally speaking, I would never encourage anybody to play in New York because it's just too hard of a place to play. New York fans, and if you're watching this, I'm just if you're listening to this, I'm just keeping it 100. People outside of New York think that New York fans are some of the most arrogant people in the world. Especially the Yankee fans.
Especially the Yankee fans.
Yankee fans automatically assume that that everybody want to play for the Yankees. The best. Mike Trout wants to be a Yankee. Bryce Harper wants to be a Yankee. They think everybody want to be a Yankee. False. New York is a hard place to play because the fans are unforgiving and they're relentless unless you're winning.
You're winning, yeah. Just like being a Laker fan.
Right. If you're not winning,
they don't have nothing to do with you.
They hate you. So if I was Chris Paul, I would leave dude. Chris Paul and San Antonio would be a juggernaut. Like they would listen with Popovich and Kawhi and LaMarcus Aldridge. Man, that would be take all my money basketball.
It would be something to see. But the thing, I guess with me, I feel if I were him, I would try to ensure that DeMarcus Cousins is going to stay in New Orleans. It just doesn't seem like it, but ensure that he's locked up there. If I was Chris Paul, I would go there. I'm one of those guys that would like to see someone like Russell Westbrook in San Antonio with a coach that can coach. And a coach that he could look at and be like, you know what? I'm willing to trust your process because you've won it 5 times. You've won it 5 times. You have 2 Hall of Famers that I know. I'm sure at some point Parker, Ginobili, those guys are all going to be Hall of Famers. But David Robinson is a Hall of Famer, and we know as soon as it's time for Tim Duncan to be a Hall of Famer, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And Tim Duncan is probably, in most cases, maybe number 6 in the top 10 best basketball players of all time. Tim Duncan is there. So I look at Westbrook as someone that would benefit from a guy like Popovich. I think he would benefit from him, and I think we would see a Westbrook that's more control, that's more of a floor general, opposed to this monster that's willing to go out there and do any and everything he has to do for his team to win. Just the structure and how they run things in San Antonio, I think a guy like Westbrook would benefit from that. And mainly is just the coaching there. Popovich is the best coach coaching in the league right now. And at some points, you can almost say he is better than Phil Jackson, because Phil Jackson had a guy named Michael Jordan. He had a guy named Scottie Pippen. Then he had a guy named Shaquille O'Neal, and he had a guy named Kobe Bryant. And then you have Popovich. I mean, as far as big time star players, it's just Tim Duncan. So he's just shown that he's a proven winner. And I think a guy like Westbrook would benefit. But if Chris Paul was able to land in a position to play under Coach Popovich with LaMarcus Aldridge and with Kawhi Leonard, that would be something special.
So are you suggesting, and this might be going somewhere else, do you think Phil Jackson's overrated?
No, I don't know. I don't think Phil Jackson is overrated at all. I think Phil Jackson is extremely special because Phil Jackson is the only person that really knows how to run the triangle offense. There's nobody else that can run the triangle offense like him. Now, granted, you need the right players to run the triangle offense, but the triangle offense is simple, but it's also extremely complex. So I think the way that he can get in there and coach the triangle offense and make his team be successful using something that is so simple, but yet it's extremely complex when you're trying to defend it, I think that's awesome. But I also think that if Doug Collins was with the Bulls just a year or 2 years later, I think Doug Collins would have won 6 championships because he had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Bill Cartwright, Horace Grant, and all those guys. So I'm not saying Phil is overrated, but I think when it comes to, for me, it's like I've read 2 of Phil Jackson books before, and like the way he think and the techniques that he used to motivate players or pull the best out of players, I don't think anybody else could do that.
Every time he's won, he's had arguably the
best
players in the world. Not just the best players, but the best players in the world.
Yes.
When has he won without the best players in the world? Tyronn Lue won a championship with the best player in the world, but you wouldn't put him on Phil Jackson level.
And only reason why I wouldn't put him on Phil Jackson's level because he just hasn't. I mean, he hadn't done it long enough.
No, I agree. So, I guess my point is when you play, if you got the best talent in the world, are you really the best coach? You know what I'm saying?
That's something to think about. But I wouldn't say no, you're not. I still would say yes, because you still have to get those guys to work. Like, I mean, you look at the situation with Miami when those guys came together. A lot of people said, "Oh, well, they needed that year." No, they didn't. They needed my man. Oh man, why am I about to forget his name? They needed my man Pat Riley to step down from being upper management and come down there and be in those practices every day with Eric Spoelstra. So Eric Spo was a great college basketball player. I think he had some stints in the NBA, and he had Dwayne Wade, he had Chris Bosh, he had my man LeBron James, a great supporting cast. And I'm not saying the Mavs weren't a great team. The Mavs was a good team because the things they did in that game, it affected LeBron James more than anyone else because they made sure that he wasn't a factor into them losing the game. So then you have to say, what's the coach name of the Mavs right now? I call him Jim Carrey, but that's not his name. He looks like Jim Carrey. But he has something to do with that strategy and let's get LeBron James out of the mix, and then we can beat them because we think we equally match up with these guys outside of Dwayne Wade. He could somewhat be the X factor. But that following year, it was Pat Riley who decided, you know what? I'm going to be the GM. I'm going to be upper management, but I need to be down here in the mix and seeing what's going on because there's no way we should have lost that championship to those guys. And there's no way we're going to continue to lose championships. We're going to win. And it was the fact that he like stepped down and he's just like, he's a coach in extraordinaire, something Eric Spoelstra isn't. So it's like one of those cases, you had the best players on the team in Eric Spoelstra and they won it 2 times, but it's because Pat Riley decided, all right, I need to go see what the hell is going on in the gym because we should have 3 chips. We shouldn't have 2, or we shouldn't be 0-1 right now. At least that's how I feel.
If Phil Jackson isn't successful in New York, will that change your perception of him?
No, because the New York Knicks is a fucking dumpster fire.
I mean, but he was brought in to fix that.
He was brought in to fix that. And I'm sitting up there thinking Phil Jackson knew how much money they were going to pay him. And it's something that the Lakers didn't want to do. That's why he wasn't offered an upper management position job with the Lakers. And he knew his ties with the New York Knicks, winning a championship with the Knicks, he can get something done there. But no, that's not going to change me because the Knicks stink. I mean, Carmelo Anthony, at one point, people will say, hey, who's your favorite players in NBA? And we're talking maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. And I would say Kobe, and I would say Carmelo Anthony. I would say Chris Paul. I would say KD. And then I like Paul George a lot. Those were my guys. And now, maybe check the podcast that I haven't posted. But, man, I think Melo stinks now. He's probably the most successful loser that I've ever met that'll end up being a Hall of Fame basketball player because he's won a national championship. He has all these gold medals. He'll be high on the NBA scoring list, and he's just an elite scorer. But outside of that, he's just a big fat loser. And now I'm starting to realize, just like you had an opportunity to go play in Chicago. You had an opportunity to go down to Miami. You had opportunities to play with a team to win, and you chose money. And you can tell he chose money because he don't want to waive his no trade clause to go play elsewhere. So I look at that whole mix with the Knicks. It just stink. Now, granted, it's going to be on Phil Jackson's record and a part of his legacy from years and years to come. But I look at it, Carmelo Anthony stayed for money. He took the job for a lot of money. And I mean, money is great. But when you're at Phil Jackson's age, I mean, there's only so much you can do. You can't really enjoy that like myself and Randy would be able to enjoy that at our age, in our early mid 30s. Like we will be able to enjoy that. Phil Jackson's not going to be able to enjoy that money at all. So I just look at it as a money thing, but it's not going to change how I feel about him as a head coach. It may change how I feel about him as a general manager and someone who's in upper management of an organization. I would say he didn't know what the hell he was doing. But as far as a basketball coach, it's not going to change how I feel about him in that realm.
I'll allow it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go on one more quick break. And the last segment we're going to have here is something my man Ray wanted to discuss, or something he said that I thought was kind of crazy. But he said something like the Warriors built the team around Steph Curry. And he also said something about Draymond Green. And if you guys have followed the podcast since day one, you guys know Draymond Green and we're like close. I mean, he's from the city that I lived in with my grandmother, Saginaw, Michigan. So I know him, play some AAU basketball with him. He's a pretty cool dude. And he's one of those talents that I didn't think would be as great as he is today. And I say great because I think he's a great basketball player. Some people are like, oh, that's a stretch. He's only good. So if Randy's going to stick around, we're going to talk about what Ray said and how I feel about that before we wrap up. So like always, stay locked, stay tuned. This is You Heard It Here First.
Find me a Kendall Jenner, I be a gentleman to her. Catch up. Give me a Jordan that she never gonna finish a nigga. Oh yeah. Walk by on fire, baby.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is You Heard It Here First. You're rocking with me, Charlie. And this is going to be the last segment tonight. We're about at that hour 40-minute mark, so it's about time to wrap it on up. Before we get out, though, I just want to talk about something my man Ray said. My man Ray said the Warriors built a team around Steph Curry. The Warriors built a team around Steph Curry. This is Randy right there. Randy just dropped out, but he's got something to do. But anyways, he was kicking it with me in the second segment of the show. We are now in the third segment of the show, talking about what Ray and I were going to talk about. And the whole thing was conversation that Ray and I and Jared, we're in a group text, and I don't know how we got to the whole talk of the Warriors. I don't know how we got there, but we got there. And basically, Ray said the Warriors built the team around Steph Curry. And I think it was Jared ended up saying, we were talking about the Warriors for whatever reason. And Jared ended up saying something like Steph Curry fell in a good situation. And then Ray followed up the text by saying the Warriors built a team around Steph Curry. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I mean, it sounds good, but I don't know if it's true. So I don't disagree with what Jared said and how Jared feels. I think it's true. I think Steph Curry fell in a situation that wasn't a winning situation, but it allowed him to grow, become better, and get ready for the big stage. The stage that started with Mark Jackson during his last year. Now, on the flip side, I don't disagree with Ray saying that the team was built around Steph. I don't disagree with that at all. However, I don't think the team was solely built around Steph Curry. I think the Warriors and management went after the best players who were available at that time during the draft. And reason why I say that is Curry was picked, Steph Curry, that is, was picked number 7 in the 2009 draft. The only player at that time, only comparable player at that time that they could have picked, yet they passed on, in my opinion, would be the 9th pick, which was DeMar DeRozan, the 10th pick, which was Brandon Jennings, and the 12th pick, which is Gerald Henderson Jr. Now, if you look at DeMar DeRozan, he's an awesome basketball player. He's balling out. Mid-season last year, I was hoping that he would sign a contract with the Lakers. And then next thing you know, the playoffs came and it was just like, oh, man, I'm happy. I'm happy you decided to stay in Canada. And then you have a guy like Brandon Jennings, who is hot and cold, streaky player. He can get you some buckets, but he's not a guy that you're going to build around or you want to put in a position to be the franchise player on your team. And he's currently a bench player in Washington. And then you have Gerald Henderson Jr., who I thought he was awesome in Charlotte. And then his year in Portland, I thought he was extremely awesome. I think he's a great player. But then again, you know what I'm saying? Or still, he's not one of those players that you want to build around. So number 7 pick, they picked Steph Curry out of Davidson. Great player. I had always heard about Steph Curry, his shooting abilities and all those things, but he just wasn't an exciting player for me to watch, especially during that time when I was watching college basketball. So, I mean, that was that. And Mark Jackson had nothing to do with that. Mark Jackson came on to the staff during the year that they drafted Klay Thompson with the 11th pick. Now, they drafted Klay Thompson with the 11th pick over Kawhi Leonard, who went 15th to the Pacers and was then traded to the San Antonio Spurs. Now, I'm sitting up there thinking now, doing this research and prepping for the show, how great of a team would the Golden State Warriors be if they would have selected Kawhi Leonard out of San Diego State? Mountain West Conference, a great player. I knew a lot about Kawhi Leonard because I lived in San Diego. Didn't know much about Klay Thompson. He played up at WSU, and the only basketball teams that I would watch in the Pac-12 at the time, living in Southern California, would be UCLA and USC. And at the time, both of those teams I mean, they were good, but they weren't that great. So, I mean, they had my attention, but most of my attention was to the San Diego State University Aztecs. And then obviously I'm watching my Michigan college basketball as well. So they select Klay Thompson, number 11, over Kawhi Leonard at 15, and also over Jimmy Butler, who went dead last in the first round, number 30. And as you can see, both Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler are players that we would consider top 10, top 15 in the NBA, as well as Klay Thompson. So the Warriors did a good job there. In 2012 is when this team extremely started to come together. So 2009, you have Steph Curry. 2 years later, or a year later, if I'm not mistaken, the draft with Klay Thompson, you get Klay Thompson. Then in 2012, you mess around and you draft Harrison Barnes. You draft Festus Ezeli. You draft Draymond Green. You also trade and pull in Andrew Bogut from the Milwaukee Bucks, if I'm not mistaken. Now that season, that core of guys won 47 games. They made the playoffs. They were the second best team in the Pacific Division, sixth best team in the West, went into the playoffs. Everything was great. The following season, they won 4 more games on top of those 47 games, 51 games. Mark Jackson was fired. A year later, they hire Steve Kerr and they win a chip. So when my man Jared says something like Curry fell into a good situation, I totally agree with that, because you draft Curry, you stink it up, you stink it up. You draft Klay Thompson, you stink it up. The following year, you draft a Draymond Green, you draft a Festus Ezeli, you draft a Harrison Barnes. You pull a trade and sign Andrew Bogut. You still have Steph Curry. You still have Klay Thompson. Next thing you know, after Mark Jackson started putting all this stuff together, he loses his job. They bring in Steve Kerr, who had no coaching experience, who was actually the general manager for the Phoenix Suns. Next thing you know, they win the championship, and Wale, the Warriors start this whole dynasty. And now they're on pace to possibly win the title this year, win the championship this year, win the Larry O'Brien trophy this year, or at least play for it. So I totally agree with Jared on the fact that Curry fell into a good situation. And I don't necessarily disagree with Ray. I don't think the team was necessarily built around Curry. I think the players that they drafted were the best players at that time. And if you go through those drafts and look at the players selected before or even after, I honestly think the Warriors did a good job at putting the team together, not necessarily building around Steph Curry, but putting the team together so he has the support, or they all have the support of each other. So that's how I feel about that. Now, Ray also said some other crazy stuff. I mean, he said something like, or he and Jared both said something like, Draymond Green is average at best. And if he was on any other team, he wouldn't be as good as he is unless that team was the San Antonio Spurs. And this was more like text message, a.k.a. barbershop talk. And I mean, they're saying Draymond Green shot is broke. He's like one of the Morris twins. And if you guys think his shot is broke, that's perfectly fine. He's not the best shooter out there, but he gets buckets. But if you think he's one of the Morris twins, if I had the option to take both Morris twins or take Draymond Green, I'm taking Draymond Green over both of those guys. I think if you put him in a winning system, he's going to win. I think if you put him in a losing system, his performance will be elevated. And I think if you put him in the middle of the pack on a team that's in the middle of the pack, I think you're going to get the same thing you get from Draymond Green now. He is not average. And I want to know, Jared, why you feel he's average? or if you, the listener or the viewer who's watching, if he's average, in the comment section, let me know why he's an average player, because I don't think he's an average player. I think he's way, way, way above average. Everywhere Draymond Green has been, he's been a winner. Saginaw High School, winner. AAU basketball, winner. Michigan State, winner. Golden State Warriors, winner and champion. Every year in college and in professionals, sports, professional NBA, he's gotten better. So to say he's average or he would be average anywhere else, I think that's a stretch. And when you guys watch this, I want an explanation. So with that being said, it is show rap time. Show rap time. I love this time because it lets me know that, you know what, I was capable of getting through the show with help, without help, and having a good time. So I love show rap time. I appreciate show rap time. And like I said, it just lets me know the chapter in this episode started and it's about to end. So with that being said, last minute shout outs. Obviously, I always have to shout out my beautiful lady, Marlena. I love you. Thank you for motivating me and helping me produce an awesome show. You did an awesome job again. I want to thank Randy. Thank you for being on the show for the second time. Craft Beer Fuji's, baby. You know who we are. Me, Charlie, my man Randy Gardner, and the home girl Amanda Mixon, a.k.a. the Beer Vixen, the Craft Beer Fuji's. I want to still say thank you to my homeboy Jared and my homeboy Ray for being a part of the show, even though you weren't a part of the show. Thank you very much. Happy birthday again to Marlena, and I am so excited to enjoy a wonderful weekend with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you guys were here. We're going to have some fun. We're going to start on Saturday morning at about 11 a.m. sharp. We're going to go to Wayfinder for lunch, have some drinks. We're going to go to Cooper's Hall in Enzo Winery, have some wine, taste some wine. We're going to go over to Grixon's Brewing, have some beer. Bear Lake Brewing, have some beer, and go to one of my favorite beer bars in the city, Scout Bar. And we're doing all this on bicycles. Nike Bike Town bicycles is going to be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to capture all the footage from an awesome morning / mid-afternoon. From there, we're going to have dinner at the Matador. Nice Mexican cuisine cooking up. Hopefully it makes me feel like I'm eating in San Diego. And then we're going to wrap up the night at a nice little bar lounge called Fortune. I have never been to the place before. I'm excited to go because like I was telling my lady, 35 is 22 in Scrabble. So let's go out and have a great time like we're in our 20s all over again. So once again, happy birthday, Marlena. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Marlena. Happy birthday to you. I think I said once before, I love her better than I sing. So, like I said, I love you. I can't wait to celebrate with you. Happy birthday again. Once again, be sure to check me out on Twitter at YouHeardSBP. That's Twitter at YouHeardSBP. Instagram at Remember the Solution. Click that subscribe button. When you see You Heard It Here First on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on iTunes, click that subscribe button. Until next time, I'm out. This is You Heard It Here First. And shout out to the home state, Bell's Brewing, A.k.a. Beer of the show. Beer of the show. Can I get that? Maybe here. Maybe. Yeah. Right. Wait. Hold up. I'm just screwing around now. But I'm out. I'm out, everybody. Bell's Brewing, baby. A.k.a. great summertime beer. I love y'all. Thank you. And I'm out. See you guys next week.
And I'm with the realest beat. In the quickest seat, baby, you getting laughed. Yeah, the DMV on the map. That's a city, 2 states. You can count. I'm as real as I say. You never lie. So whenever I go, no, I'm running back. Bitches want money stack. I just want my percent. She told me they hit the